everybody, thanks so much for joining us on today's presentation about NDIS, Planning and Beyond. My name is Susie, I work for the Early Childhood Intervention and Disability Services teams at Windermere. Remember that the presentation, the information that we give today about the NDIS may change because the NDIS is learning and changing frequently. So this information is current to the best of our knowledge as of June 2017. But if you transition well after this date, some processes may have changed. Today we're going to talk about the National Disability Insurance Scheme, or NDIS. We're going to demystify some acronyms, but the bulk of the presentation is going to be some practical ideas for you to begin in planning for the NDIA planning process. So we're going to do some planning for planning. Now, why do we need to change? As you know, disability services are currently significantly underfunded, and this has meant that people with disabilities have sat on long waiting lists, some not ever getting the services that they need when they need them, and people are having limited accesses to the services that they would like. The government may only fund one service in your area, and this has also limited your choice and control. And the bulk of services are not really focused on long term. They're not focused on capacity building, but rather they're being short-term crisis-driven supports. And the NDIS aims to change that. So it is a new funding scheme designed to provide people with disabilities the support when and how you need it. It is designed to give you choice and control over your services, and partly this is going to be from providing more funding into the scheme, meaning that there will be more services available for you to access. You also won't be bound by location, which will also increase your choice and control. It's designed to help maintain your informal supports from families and friends, and the scheme will fund what the NDIA call reasonable and necessary supports. So a reasonable and necessary support, as deemed by the NDIA, is a support that must relate to your disability. It needs to be value for money, and it needs to be proven to be effective and beneficial. And as I said before, it's not designed to replace the informal supports that you might receive from family or friends in the community, but rather to provide you with additional supports that you need to achieve your goals in daily life. There are a few terms you might hear. I've spoken already about the NDIS, which is the scheme. The organisation that's responsible for maintaining the scheme is the NDIA, or the National Disability Insurance Agency. And you may have access to the agency if you're doing some planning through them. More often than not, though, you'll be doing your planning through a LAC, or Local Area Coordinator. Think of the local area coordinators as like the community face of the NDIA. So it's an organisation whose entire job is to provide the NDIA services in the community. So they're going to be helping you with planning and support. They're going to be helping you to access information and connections between disability services and the community. Part of their role is also to provide community development. So it might be that they'll provide some services to the whole of the community rather than just specifically to one person with disability. They're also going to help you provide feedback to the NDIA on how things are working. The LACs are not going to be providing disability services, so they're going to help you in the first stage of getting your plan organised, and then they'll send you off to find your own services. The NDIA recognised that for children, the pathway needs to be slightly different than through the local area coordinator, and so what they now have organised are called Early Childhood Early Intervention Partners. So these are service organisations again who provide a similar role to the LACs, but they're working with children 0 to 6. And the reason the pathway here is a little bit different is because in this age range, the children don't have to have a diagnosed disability. So very similar to now, under the Early Childhood Intervention Services, you're eligible if you have a disability or a developmental delay. On the next page here, you can see some of the NDIS timelines. The NDIS is a massive scheme, and so people are being rolled out region by region. So some areas in Australia are already rolled out or started. Rolled out is the term NDIA uses, and other areas will be starting in a slow transition. So you can see for our area around here, Outer Eastern is starting in 1st of November 2017, and next year Bayside Peninsula comes first in April and then Southern Melbourne in September 2018. You can see that Outer Gippsland is starting, they're one of the last regions to roll out in January 2019, and Inner Gippsland starts at the end of this year, 1st of October 2017. Okay, to find out if you are eligible, the best place to check is the NDIS website. They have a form there called an action checklist, and you can pop onto the website and have a look there. But eligibility is basically 0 to 65 if you're an Australian resident or permanent resident, or you hold a protected special category visa, if you have a diagnosed disability, or again for the children under 7, you have a developmental delay, and your disability means that you normally need help from a person or equipment to do everyday things. The final eligibility is that at this point you live in an area where the NDIS is available. So you may come up as non-eligible on the access checklist if your area has not rolled out. You should be able to do this up to 6 months prior to the rollout in your area, but if that doesn't work, I would just wait a little while. To access the service, if you are already using disability funded services, so for example this would be if you are accessing Early Childhood Intervention Services or ECIS, if you have funding through Helping Children with Autism or Better Start, or you're accessing continence funding or disability services, or for example if you attend a day centre, your information has already been sent to the NDIA. The NDIA will contact you to discuss your eligibility. They will contact you by phone, so you need to make sure you answer your phone, and they will usually ask you a few questions around access. At this point, they will then let you know that a planner will contact you in the future. If you're not receiving services currently, you will need to contact the NDIA when the scheme becomes available in your area by going onto the website, as I said before, and completing the access request form. This may be eligible up to 6 months prior to rollout, but be aware if the form says you're not eligible, it may be because the scheme is not yet available in your area. So, how do you get ready for the planning conversation? First of all, you need to get organised. So make sure that you pull together all of your recent reports and assessments, and if there's any other formal information that you have about your disability, diagnoses for example, bring together all that evidence. Also, you need to sit down and think about what your day looks like, what each day of your week looks like, and think about what are the things that are working really well for you and what are the things that you think you might need a bit more support with. So you want to think about your goals for the future. Most of the plans at the moment are 12 monthly plans, so at least think this far ahead. You'll need to list down the things that you need to do now and the things that you need to do into the future. And you have a think about your current supports and what supports you think you might need to be able to achieve these needs. Also, have a think about the things that you want to do now and the things that you want to do into the future. So these are things that are most important to you. Have a good long think and preparation for your plan. You should expect to get a letter from the NDIA informing you when planning will take place. At this stage, planning is generally happening over the phone. Remember that the NDIA is trying to transition thousands of people onto the scheme at the same time. So this may not happen into the future, but at this point, the NDIA's preference is for a planning conversation to occur over the phone. If you feel like this won't suit you and your family's needs, just have a chat with the planner and you are able to request a face-to-face meeting. Remember that you can have as many support people in your planning meeting as you'd like. This can happen over the phone as well. You are allowed to have anyone in the room that you feel will help you to make sure that your needs are being met. You can include service people in this. So if there's some service people who you've built a really great relationship with over time and you feel that they can help to get your needs across, feel free to invite them to the planning meeting. At the end of the planning meeting, make sure that the planner understands what you've said, so that they can read back to you all the things that you've said to make sure nothing was missed. The plan manager is going to ask you a question about how you would like the finances of your plan to be managed. There's 3 different options, and you can choose one of the 3, or you can choose a combination of all 3. One option is what is called agency managed budget. This means that the NDIA, as in agency, manages your finances. This is the option that is the least time commitment from you. So for example, you would access a service, your service provider would invoice the NDIA directly through the portal, and the NDIA pays them directly. You still need to monitor your service bookings and claims, but you don't need to worry about looking at invoices or anything like that. All of the support providers doing this need to be NDIA registered, which means that they need to meet a number of strict criteria set by the NDIA, and it might mean a little bit limited choice in who you can access with regards to service providers, because for example your individual speech pathologist may not be able to be NDIA registered. Another option is self-managed. So this is the other end of the spectrum in regards to time commitment. You need to monitor all of the finances with regards to when you're self-managing. So you manage all of the invoices, the payments and the claims. What will happen is one of 2 ways. You either pay your service provider ahead of time and then you claim back the money through the NDIA portal, or you might be able to claim through the portal first and then pay your service provider. You will definitely need to be able to monitor finances to be able to have a self-managed budget. What's great about this option is that service providers don't need to be registered with the NDIA. However, please make sure that they are all still professionally registered for your protection. The third option, and this option sits really somewhere in between, is called provider managed budgets. This means that you still have the wonderful flexibility of being able to choose a service provider who's not registered with the NDIA, and you basically bring on an organisation or a provider who can manage the plan for you. So they pay all of the invoices. So what would happen is you go to your service provider, you take your invoice with you, you send it to the plan managed organisation, they pay the invoice and then they claim it back through the NDIA portal. You will receive additional funding in your plan to be able to pay for your plan management provider. So this means you'll get additional money on top of your plan. It doesn't come out of any of your other services in order to be able to pay for a plan management provider. This service is provided by Windermere and a number of other organisations across Australia. So once you've got your plan, you get to choose how and with who you spend your money. So you can choose which supports you want from which provider, and you can also choose who's going to be your plan management organisation. So remember, if you're not happy with your plan, you can request a review from the NDIA, as long as this is not within 90 days of the end of your plan. So any time before that, you can request a review from the NDIA. As I said in my introduction, I'm from Windermere. We are a registered NDIS provider, so that means that you can access us through that agency managed plan or the other 2 options. We provide early childhood intervention services allied health services. So this would include speech pathology, occupational therapy, physiotherapy and psychology. We also provide support coordination and that plan management that I was talking about in the third option. Please feel free to contact us. You can see our details there on the website. You can find more information about face-to-face information sessions that we provide, as well as further information about our services. So if you've got any questions about the presentation I've done today or about the services, please feel free to contact any of us on that back page and we'll be able to help.